Greetings and welcome to perhaps the last. This is a very special video where I'm going to talk about the map in quite great detail. It is going to be unlisted for a time, and the only way you can get to this video is by completing the map, a special collection quest in the map, and unlocking a particular door, which has a link to this video behind it. Or, of course, by just breaking that door after you complete the map. Or after some amount of time, I might make this a public video. So if you have not played this map and you're interested in it, then I would suggest you do that. This is being recorded in Minecraft 1.12. I should say, probably, Minecraft Java Edition. And this may be a long video. I actually don't have a script, and I don't know how long this will be. But I have, as you can see, put the map in creative mode. The map is complete. And I do point that out because this map was created 100% in Minecraft Survival by a team of about 18, I think, people over the course of just over 2 years. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk a little bit here. I'm in the spawn area, which you should recognize if you played the map. I'm going to talk a little bit about the map. I've also frozen time so that it will stay daylight so you can see everything as I talk about each area and the people that built them, etc. But first I'm going to give you a little bit of history. So the seed for this map... There we go, is -479955565. And I want to start with the seed because in the past vanilla challenges, I wanted to play the survival, and here we go, play the survival map in a world, starting in a biome that we hadn't played in before. And the first vanilla challenge, we didn't really have many biomes. It was all grass and forest. The second vanilla challenge, you start off in a savanna, which was right next to a desert. And this one, I wanted to start off in a snowy area, very close to ice spikes, which are right over this away. There's the ice spikes. This ultimately proved to be quite challenging for several reasons while we were building the map. The most important reason is because of all this ice here, and if you have too many lights near the ice will constantly, at least back when we started this, I think it was in 1.9, or might have been 1.8, I'm not even sure, but the ice will unfreeze because of the lights and then refreeze because of the biome, back and forth. And as you can see, there's lots and lots of ice. And so one of the first issues that we had was a lot of lag due to that. But this map, the one that so there were many people in this map, but there were also other people creating their vanilla challenge maps using that same seed in their own worlds. And one of the coolest things for the map makers is if you play someone else's vanilla challenge map, you will almost inevitably get a feeling for the terrain that you're moving through, especially right around spawn. And you will see how other people have built in the same world that you're in the same terrain, but have built their own particular interesting things. And it's a really cool feeling to see that when you play these kinds of maps. All right, so as I said, I don't have a script. I'm going to be rambling. This may be a little bit of a long video. So this is the spawn area. And the way that we built this map, it was on day one, we all logged in, and none of this was here. You know, you have to imagine that this was all just open terrain. In fact, do you want to take a look at what it looks like? This is actually what the world looked like, minus those weird portal sounds, when you start the fresh seed before anything at all was built. So over here, you can see this little hill slash island where there was like a pumpkin farm that I turned into a melon farm. Up here, oh, there's a polar bear. Up here, there were some glass buildings and some more automated farms. Right here was the post office. Here's where you saw the wool monument. So right here was that spawn area. And then looking off this way, there was a wall around here and a tent. And then over here, you saw those big tall buildings. So this is what it looked like before anything else was built on day one when we all logged into a survival world. The other thing about this survival world is that the underground areas in this world, of course, were all intact. And I want to show you something special because this is quite amazing to me. Take a look at all the strip mining that was done under this map. So this whole section under here, or the majority of these tunnels, I think these off in this direction, some of these were dug by various different people. But look at this off in this direction here. All of this was dug out completely by hand. And the majority of this section here was all dug out by Jay Gazmom, this gigantic underground maze. Now, I didn't actually take advantage of this in the final map, but I certainly did have plans to do so at one point. I'll get to that in a little bit. But check it out. Over here, underneath the MeTube tower, Abe Brightmore dug this whole thing out here. I think he was going to do some dropper inside of there. And just look at all the mines. This over here, I think, is the sheep farm from Ghost Vortex and or Jiggerbov. Inside of this great big tower here. Each level is actually different colored sheep. And then there's again more sheep up here. Crazy amount of raw resources that were gathered. And really a lot of those were gathered even before the main story of the map was quote unquote installed. So I'll give you a little bit of history. On day one, a bunch of people logged in, and there's a couple videos that show everyone that logged in day one. And what I told them was that at the time I did not have any plan in mind for what this map would be, and that everyone should just go off and start building their homes and survive and get set up and figure out kind of, look around and find an area that maybe each person wanted to build in. And if somebody didn't want to own an area, then, they could be part of the general build team and we'd give out assignments once we figured out what the map was. So everyone kind of scattered out. I'll just point out a couple things that come to mind. This hill right here across from spawn was really, I believe, the first building on the server. In fact, it was at least the first building that I was really aware of. And this little farm here was created by Granny Gamer 1. And all these things that were melons, they were pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns, because her preferred light source was jack-o'-lanterns. And in fact, as far as you could see in every direction, any trails that were off into the wilderness were probably lit up by her jack-o'-lanterns, which we ultimately had to replace because I was using so many pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns as NPCs. And it was like, why would the pumpkin people use their own heads as a light source? So we ultimately had to replace a lot of those. She also built this post office here with all of our mailboxes in it. It was pretty cool. And she and a couple other people built some of the farms I'll talk about in a bit. But we also have some automated farms and some automated reed farms, cactus farms, all kinds of different farms all over the place, chicken farms. A lot of these were created by the group, and QMagnet also had a lot of fun creating farms around spawn. I believe Cold Fusion Gaming created this graveyard here, if I remember correctly. Let's see. Although it could have, yeah, no, I think it was CFG that created this. There were a couple other people on day one, like Bongo Tez, who kind of took over this little cave area back here. It was like his secret alley. I think CFG actually made this temple up here, which I think, if I remember correctly, at one point there was a sign that said there was a statue of Jiggerbob there, and the statue never actually got made. Ghost Vortex created this stuff back here, and also he went to the ice spikes and created some glass castles up on top of the ice spikes. I'll just take a quick show you here. And all of the underground from this ice spikes area to spawn, most of these caves, look at this. So this is all his digging. This is separate from all the digging underneath spawn itself. And look at it. It just keeps on going. It just keeps on going and going and going. People dug so many resources out of the land in this map, which is an interesting problem being on a multiplayer server, is that I forgot to tell people to limit their travels to like 1,000 or 2,000 blocks, because I didn't want to make this an enormous download size. And unfortunately, people went something like, I believe there's a jungle like 9,000 blocks through the Nether, and there's a mycelium farm, and there's a pod soul place that QMagnet went to. So this map is like tens of thousands of blocks, which makes it a huge download. And if the download is too big for people, I may actually, since the map itself is completely done, I may actually prune part of the world just to make the file size smaller. But anyway, so we all split off and we made different houses in different areas. And one of the other first night houses was way the heck over here, along this coastline here. And it was created by Felonious. Now, I could load up an older version of the map. I have several. But basically this house here, and again, these melons were all pumpkins, but this little house here was Felonious's. And Felonious didn't play much on the server after day one, because he had his own vanilla map he was working on. So I believe Granny Gamer took over this house, finished it up, built some donkey area, etc. And then over the course of a couple weeks, various people would use this house for like temporary shelter. I think maybe CFG, Jiggerbob, QMagnet, I can't remember who all did, but it sort of became a running joke that so many people used this little house as like a temporary shelter that this became like thought of as a little inn. And of course, it is now the post-credits inn that you visit after you've completed the map and see the credits, and it's the inn that you can bring the swords from the sword quest to get the link to this video. One of the other things that kind of fascinates me about this map process is the way that we chose to sort of mark off different areas to alert each other that a particular area was ours that we were building in, and we didn't want anyone to cross into that area and mess up our build. So this pumpkin wall or line of pumpkin totems is what Cold Fusion Gaming created to block off what lies beyond here with with the city where we were spending a lot of our time. Okay, so folks spread out. They made their homes wherever. Here's Jiggerbob's floating castle right up above spawn. And of course, the other thing that everybody congregating around Spawn and creating so many sheep farms and other animal farms and villager farms cause a lot of lag because they're always actually in the loaded chunks. So another lessons learned. This was the dirt hut. Now this map was started before the rsmalec server became a thing, and sort of took quite a long pause while we were playing on rsmalec. I didn't want to. I had to actually did have two servers up at once, but at some point we kind of lost interest in this, and then regained it, and then lost it and regained it. So that's why it took 2 years to make. This right here is actually the site of where our server message board was, where people could like say, hey, I need this, I need that, I need wither skulls, whatever. Or we could say, hey, announcement, we're going to go do this on such and such day. And then, of course, once the post office was built, we were able to leave mail for each other. And I think, yep, the happy anniversary, the 1 year anniversary papers are still in some people's mailboxes. Happy anniversary. And courtesy of Vanilla Fungi. Notice VF, Vanilla Fungi. I think a lot of these references are going to be gone, but this was the Vanilla Films field headquarter, and this book here is actually called Vanilla Federated. I want to give a special little look at what this is, because this may not have actually survived your LP for reasons that I'm pointing at right there. So Vanilla Films was my 2014 Vanilla Challenge 2 was a fake company that was filming the map in 2014. When I started this map, this Vanilla 3 map, the first area that I created was by Vanilla Farms. And then Vanilla Frames, I put item frames all around from Vanilla Frames. I had, I think, a mushroom farm from Vanilla Fungi. I don't remember what I had. Oh, I think I had a brewing stand from Vanilla Pharmacology. I think that something near the end was from Vanilla Futures, Vanilla Flames, Vanilla Fashions. There was actually this catwalk over here. This catwalk over here was actually where we had all of our NPC designs standing near each one of these spotlights, and there was a vote for which design was going to make it into the map. I ended up at the end using almost all the designs and not really voting any out. And Vanilla Friends was, I think, something to do with the post office. I don't even remember now. But if we were to go down here, which you can't access while playing the map, this was my survival base. So as you saw up above, it was a simple little canopy, because I'm kind of a minimalist when it comes to that sort of thing. And down here, that was my bed. This was my main base. This is my suit for fighting like the Ender Dragon and the Temple. My meager possessions, a big V for Vanilla Films, my auto smelter, and then back here is actually a miniature map and design of this world. Now we have a shared Google Doc that everyone who was on the server had to sign, quote unquote, sign the Google Doc by leaving a comment in a certain spot. If you didn't do that, you were taken off the whitelist. And that had the whole map outline, the NPCs, the areas, the story, all that kind of stuff. But I also, just because I was having fun with it, wanted to make, in the map itself, a miniature version of the map. Now, what you see here is actually not up to date with the final build. But the idea was that if an area was not started, it would be red. Yellow is build in progress. Green is build is complete but needs like final walkthrough test. And blue was area complete. And each of these areas, like 1, the spawn point tutorial area, 2A was Hero Town, 2B was the MeTube Tower from A Brightmore, 2C was Q Inc. Then I was planning to have a subway to the Ice Spikes layer, to the Decoshroom layer, to Diver City, which was Jig's area, to the Mesa, the Hero Factory, the Sofa Inn, and then the Battlefield and the Nether Hub layer. And each of these blocks you can see is sort of a miniature version. So here's the starting city. You can see the snow and you can see the ice. Here's the MeTube Tower, Q Inc. Here's the spawn area. So you can see it was supposed to be sandstone. These represent the nether hubs, or the nether portals, I should say, to the nether hub, and how it connects to the mesa, and how it connects over here to Diver City. So this was like a miniature version. And then various books and things like that are all in here. And I was going to keep this updated as we made the map. And at some point during the map, you were actually going to kind of cross through here. But I ultimately ended up not allowing that. So I did mention earlier that throughout the course of this server, there were a couple points where we sort of lost interest in the map and did other things and then came back to it. And what happened was we actually finished a couple of areas. So off in this direction here, the first area that was finished in this map was the Decoshroom that I did. And that is a tribute to the very first dungeon in The Legend of Zelda, the very first Legend of Zelda. So if you're familiar with that game, and the first little island with the first dungeon is sort of in an old tree trunk, I kind of converted it into a mushroom area. But that was my tribute, even all the way down to like the little blue leaves sticking off of the branches. So that was actually the first area completed in this entire map. And my idea was that we'd all go off, we'd each find what little area we want to build, such as that one. We'd each build our own area, and then later I would come through and connect them all. And then the last thing I would do was create the spawn area, because I figured we were all living here at spawn and traipsing through here, which raised the risk of creepers and things like that messing it up. So my actual plan for completing the map was to finish all of the areas in reverse order, or at least connect them in reverse order and do the spawn last, and then log out here where you start the map. I didn't quite end up doing it that way, but that was the plan at the time that I thought was the best. So I finished this area over here. And then the second area, I finished the ice spikes. Meanwhile, Jiggerbov was working on Diver City off that way. And Q Magnet had the frame of his building. And A Brightmore had most of MeTube Towers finished. And when we first, so I would say probably like after about a couple weeks of building random stuff and sort of, chatting and joking around and having some survival fun, I started to let the map itself tell us what kind of story or what kind of adventure it was going to be. And I took quite a bit of inspiration from MeTube, and I don't think Q Inc. was even there yet, but MeTube was obviously celebrating various tropes about YouTube at the time, such as map makers not getting credit in videos. And so this sort of was one of the main inspirations for the entire story of the map. We said that, hey, let's make the player a troll, and I don't mean a green skin troll, but a human who is going around trolling this town and griefing it. So the original idea was to build this all up like a giant city, and you'd be going around trolling and griefing things and going out to each of the other zones and trolling and griefing them. And the whole thing, the whole map would be full of all kinds of tropes and puns and goofy stuff. And over time, we decided we wanted to do sort of a reverse CTM for a portion of it, a dropper for a portion of it, a parkour portion, some combat portion if we could find any spawners underground, things like that. But over time, the whole trolling aspect to this, I started to get this desire to build a fantasy themed map, which was still had some jokes in it, but which was a little more serious. And so I changed from the idea of trolling a city to actually you being a troll and playing as a villain who is here to destroy the city, and actually do an opposite CTM where you take the wool and you put it in various fleecy boxes instead of going to those fleecy boxes, getting the wool, and bringing it to a central location. So as you can see, there are elements of some of our original design that morphed over time into the final map that hopefully you've played through. And as the map went on and on and on, that vision in my head became a little clearer. And at one point, we decided that you were no longer going to be trolls against humans, because it would be a little bit too confusing for you to be playing a troll against humans. And quite frankly, human NPCs are very hard to do in vanilla Minecraft. So one of the defaults is to use these kind of pumpkin-headed NPCs, which is just a block and a pumpkin for the head. And pretty quickly, the story morphed into you are a troll, and all of your troll buddies basically look like these green skin guys with pointy noses on a block, versus the pumpkin guys, which are wool blocks with pumpkin heads. And the pumpkin heroes, or the soldiers, are supposed to be jack-o'-lanterns, and all the pumpkin citizens are supposed to be just regular pumpkins that don't light up. And I think for the most part, we did achieve that. So, I've left a couple threads that I'm going to keep circling back to till I finish this part. We had a bunch of these areas finished. So the Decoshroom was finished, the ice spikes were finished, Diver City was finished, MeTube Q Inc., CFG had roughed out his factory. There were a bunch of areas that were almost complete. Like the main build of them was complete, but there were still a few things kind of, to be finished off. And that was probably the beginning of 2016, I would say. And at that point, I didn't want to keep two servers going. Here's CFG's factory, which, again, you've seen if you've played the map. You've seen the inside. I didn't want to keep the server going while rsmalec was also going, because people weren't playing on both. I was just spending money to keep two servers going. So I ended up putting this map away for a little while and just focusing on the realm, which was amazing. And if I actually hadn't stopped playing Minecraft even on the realm, I probably never would have come back to this map, to be honest with you. But anyway, so I had all these areas that were partially finished but not connected. I had the idea, the design of the storyline on how they would all be connected, and I took quite a big break from Minecraft. And what happened that brought me back was I began listening to a podcast by two friends of mine, Dragnaws and Adam Clark, called The Long Game. And they talked about their own similar sort of declining love for the game, but also, a love that just never dies, but it waxes and wanes up and down. And they told a similar story of, taking a break from the game after Minecon, playing World of Warcraft, which I was playing at the time, and then kind of getting the bug again, and how much the game had changed and the community had changed, and it just got me back into the mood for playing. But I really didn't want to go through the hassle of putting this up on a server and trying to coordinate with all those people. Like, just the thought of it made me start losing interest. But I said to myself, you know what? I'm just going to go in, I'm going to start building a little bit, and let's just see how far I can get. And I got the bug long enough that I finished the map on my own. And what I finished on my own was creating this spawn area right here, just that little area, and then connecting everything together in the path of the story that you played through, or that you will see me play run through in a few minutes. And so I ended up connecting everything. I mentioned that, for example, Jay Gazmom had all that digging, and we kind of had plans to have you go through a maze underneath the city and do all these things. And there were some areas that I just decided, you know what, it would just take me too much work to really make them how I had originally envisioned. So all I did was just kind of block things off, make them inaccessible. Like, for example, her door just simply doesn't have a way to get down here to all of the mazes. And so that, I finished the map with some areas that have not, to be honest, lived up to their absolute fullest potential, but I feel they're damn good, considering that this was all built in survival and how long it took us. I also mentioned areas like Q Magnet's house was really just a frame with, I believe, this room down here and these two rooms empty, and the only actual detail that he had in the map at all was this wall and this wall, exactly as you see them, this receptionist, and these two bathrooms over here, pretty much exactly as you see them, except the lights actually were not even fully working the way they are in my final version. It didn't have all of the other walls which make up the puzzle. I don't even know what puzzle he was planning. The original idea was that Q Inc. and... Oh, I didn't know that snow... I didn't know snow could go on top of glass. That's actually a problem. That is actually a problem, because you can't see. Huh. You can't see this. I had torches and stuff up there when I was doing building, but, well, it's another example of not having a really clear design in mind and kind of going with the flow and cutting some corners. Also, like, MeTube Tower is very open air in a lot of places and very much unfinished, but I made it look finished enough so that when you play through it, hopefully people just think it's a very weirdly constructed tower and not actually an unfinished tower. I think I did a pretty good job of filling it up, to be honest with you. The original idea was a completely complex parkour course through this building that Abe Brightmore had gotten most of it created, and oh my gosh, trying to navigate it and build the story to get up through this whole tower to the top with the helicopter was so challenging. Again, I cut a bunch of corners, but I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. And he had enough of the tower built, the helicopter, the landing pad, the shape of the tower, that I can honestly say I feel like this is his building, even though I finished it off. And same thing with Q, and same thing even with a bit of Diver City, and things like we have the place where Faum and Jiggerbov completely drained the sea temple to make a guardian farm. And that was never even actually supposed to be part of the map, but was just something that we ended up. I ended up liking it so much when I was connecting all the areas. I thought I have to somehow work this in, and I have to make this part of the final map because it just looks so darn cool. So I'm just flying over to it now to show you it really quick. There it is. I mean, come on, look at that effort. I actually had a bit of fun trying to replace the sand that they had put up with a V and putting this top rim around it. But otherwise, it's pretty much exactly as they did it. All right, so let's go back to the beginning. Let's do a little bit of a walkthrough, and I'll just mention some additional things that mean a lot to me, some memories of this map. So if you're still watching this, I hope that you will enjoy those. Now, let's go ahead and let's just go through this as it is. This path back here actually connects into the sheep farm, and this building back here was Jiggerbov's was full of villagers who sold all different kinds of things. I had to pull them out because I didn't want to confuse the story with villagers when it was focused on trolls versus pumpkins. So I had to pull those NPCs out. But this is another example of where we actually had survival function for this path here going back into the sheep farm, and I ended up just kind of blocking it off. Oh, why is the... Why is the beacon not going? Huh. That's weird. Why is the beacon not going? Oh. Oh shoot, in one of my test runs I must have done that. So anyway, the first thing you do is you gotta press that button, because this guy told you to go get back in line, and so hopefully this little area here with its dialogue will actually oh yeah, that's down here. Notice since we were in survival and we couldn't like simulate being in adventure mode, we named things like can break wool, can break scales. So you're supposed to kind of get the idea that that's it's simulating the adventure mode, and hopefully people, if they play this map, will realize, based on all the books and stuff that I have here, whoops, these instruction books, that you're supposed to fill this with your wools and your talismans that you get throughout the play of this map. Alright, let's just go ahead and do this. This was one of my favorite little special effects, is that, you know, as you're about to escape and run off and start delivering the wool, here come the heroes, and if you as the player happen to go down here, oh gosh, I hate that in 1.12. I hope they have a way to turn that off. This explosion perfectly was positioned so you can't get out this way, but you can get out back into the spawn area if you're nosy and go looking down there. So I'm pretty proud of that. And then each of the areas are connected by, the path to each area was supposed to start with a banner man carrying a banner, and then you're supposed to follow the bannerman's instructions to get to the next area. Here's another example where there's actually access to one of our survival builds down here. You're not really supposed to go down here, but if you happen to, you can find a little bit of Easter egg, and I've blocked off, your actual access to the survival area, but you can get you can get some starting gear. I left some stuff in here, not super game breaking. If you didn't go down here, hopefully we've given you enough gear as it is. And then this, again, making use of just somebody had built all these farms down here for survival purposes, and then I connected these rooms through here. I have a feeling this was all Ghost Vortex that did this. I connected all this, made it just dark enough so that you could have some mobs to fight, and connected it into Faum's house. So Faum's house was going to be the subway, which would come in from here. And he had all of the... So again, I left a lot of his stuff here. He had all of the skeleton and other mob grinders in his house. I believe if you go through here, these are the stairs that lead down to his grinders. And so he is also the first of the fallen armsmen from whom you can collect a sword. And here's the Sofa Inn advertisement and the quest explanation. And if you didn't get it from the spawn area, these banners were supposed to train you that there are trolls of different nationalities or different tribes, and they're a block with a block on their head and a nose. And these are the pumpkin heroes versus the pumpkin citizens, with the gold bodies versus the white or iron bodies. And all the different, each different tribe has its own banners that they wear as capes, and the pumpkins wear capes. So did a lot of effort to tie all this together. And then, of course, when this part was built was I think 1.11 when ice boating became a thing. On rsmalec, and I had to come in here and add an ice boating course in this map as well. And it is a bit awkward if you are untrained at ice boating, but if you give up, that's fine. You can just as easily walk through here. And I loved how this river gave you this great view of the ice spikes, and as you're kind of going forward, I purposely wanted the player to come underneath these ice spikes, and then I kind of built the narrative as if you're sneaking in below Ghost Vortex's castle, and you're going to come up from below to assault the castle. And so this was, again, Ghost Vortex built on the ice spikes, so he is the he is the pumpkin that you fight in here. And of course, if you listened to our web RPG, in which a long time ago Felonius the Wizard was our dungeon master, we played D&D, and Ghost Vortex had a joke about having a drawbridge on the front of his trousers that he would lower when he would have to go to the bathroom. And so I've given that reference in here to that, sort of an inside joke. And again, this stair up here leads up to Ghost Vortex's base. I didn't want the player to get distracted by going up there, so I simply blocked it off. And the only way that you can go is here into the underground, the basement of his base, where all the water pipes are. And my original idea was that you were going to have to do a puzzle here with hot and cold water pipes by turning these faucet handles to make the water go. What I ultimately ended up including was a much simpler puzzle where you go down you see the hose coming out here. You go down this path past these mammoths, which I'm pretty proud of, these little mammoths, and you find the faucet handle, which I don't remember which one of these it's in, but it's here somewhere. There it is, the faucet handle. Technically, you could use any item, but that's okay. And you come over here, and this guy says that this cave collapsed because one of the mammoths scraped their back on the ceiling. If you look in here, the hose nozzle, there's nothing in here right now. But if you were to put the handle in here and then turn it, let's see if I can get a good angle here. There's a bucket that actually shoots up from one dispenser into this dispenser, and then this dispenser triggers, and the water knocks down that wall of snow, which clears up the path. And technically speaking, if you wanted to do this, although I don't know why you would, you can actually turn that around and turn the water back off again. And turn it around again, the water will come out again. And now, of course, there's a bucket in there. So very small puzzle to turn on the handle. And then you follow this path through here. You got just a tiny little bit of jumping. Hopefully people don't have too much trouble with it. You don't even have to sprint jump. And you come over here to the big mammoth, who is dragging the first fleecy box. This is a CTM trope on a sled. And the story is that, you know, the army's coming in from underneath to take back the castle, and then they're going to install this new fleecy box where we're supposed to put the wool. And so in order to kind of finish this section, you put the light blue wool in there, and then a chest opens up and you can take the sledding talisman. And these talismans are what unlock the next area for most of these. And then you come down through here. This is all natural. I did not actually create this little sort of weird, cool cave here. This was just part of the map. And in fact, down here, this spawner is a natural spawner that was... the cave was accessible to the surface, and we found it. I found it actually the first time I came over here, and I was like, okay, I have to bring the player past this such that they can, you know, have a little bit of combat other than just random spawns. So this light is actually on, and it's keeping the zombies from spawning. And what happens is when you ride the minecart down here, it actually turns the light off. Oh, and by the way, here are my glasses around my two eyes. some chest art that I've been using that technique ever since one of my first maps out, the Wonderland maps. So once the minecart hits that thing down there, the light goes off, zombies start spawning, and the idea is that while you're sitting here either fighting this guy to get his sword or reading this, the zombies are coming up from behind you. I used that trick in my Vanilla 2 map, and it worked pretty well in the Wampa lair. Here, Unlikely Waffle is wearing a mask, so that's an inside reference to him. You take his sword, you come across here. Now, hopefully nobody was dumb enough. This is all natural. Hopefully somebody wasn't dumb enough to jump down there, but if they were, I put a thing basically saying, like, you shouldn't be down here, you're kind of screwed. And I don't think I actually made a good way to get back out of there, so hopefully nobody actually goes down there. Then I built this tiny little roller coaster. Oh no, lava! Classic, I know. And here, I wanted the player to come back through the spawners and actually fight, but the skeletons are so difficult, especially if you're in water, and if you take your time getting to this point, you could have quite a lot of skeletons in here, and I really don't want people to die in this map. I want them to be able to experience the whole map. So the spawner starts in the off position, and once you come through the grinder, here's Falm's grinder, you have the option of turning the lights off, and then skeletons will come in here. And it is a functioning grinder, even though I put the water there. Here's again, I've blocked off some areas I don't want the player to get to. This is Falm's vine garden. So a lot of these things were not planned as part of the story. They were just functional for us to survive, and then I wove the story through these areas. Here's another one that I blocked off, access down to the basement. And then here's our zombie spawner, which the player can, I don't know, use and abuse. But you have to come through here in order to proceed with the story. Of course, I blocked off... okay, this was just a cave. Somewhere I blocked off another, like, sort of living area. Here it is, actually. So this was Falm's, how he got to his living area. But I don't want the player to go that way. I want the player to go this way. And my initial idea was actually to have the player go through this spider dungeon here. But I actually forgot about it. And then by the time I had all this built in this path, I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to make you go through yet another spawner just to go through it. But you follow this path back through here, past the melting ice hut, which I never bothered to fix. And then you have the my Deku shrine. And I'm really proud of this dungeon, although there's a piece in it that's a little bit kludgy. Here's CPM 4001. If you can figure out what this is a reference to, then you will know why it's him saying it. I really like this portion of the forest where I went and replaced all the tree trunks with this sort of like what in my mind is like a Tim Burton, this striped looking trees. Sort of weird, confusing, and hopefully people are able to follow the mushroom trail pretty easily. I wanted you to kind of get the feeling that you're passing through like a very big forest and the foliage is changing and getting more crazy, and by the time you get to here, you're no longer in a normal forest but in a mushroom forest. That was my intention. And hopefully I hid the exit and the NPC well enough so that the casual player won't see that book back there. But they'll be coming over to here. I have put beds in every area because you obviously can't set spawn points in vanilla survival Minecraft. And you come down here and you're in this old rotted out tree. And in order to proceed, one of my favorite tricks in Minecraft is the falling floor trap. Oh, that's so annoying. And again, Zelda reference, that is the shape of the map of the very first Zelda dungeon. It's just subtly in the floor. And you can pretty much throw any kind of garbage in here, I think. But I think only dirt and carpet will actually open it. There we go. Now this is another puzzle that I really like, that I built in Survival Minecraft. You actually cannot build this anymore because what's going on is those are obviously minecarts with armor stands in them. And they are supposed to represent bugs, beetles just running around on the floor. And you're supposed to try and catch the beetles with your bare hand, like by right-clicking on them. So let's see if I can catch one here. Come on. Why can I not catch one now? There we go. And this particular beetle has shed his skin. This particular beetle is the golden scarab, and then there's a carapace and some other things. And once you throw two of them in there, then this opens up. I really like that puzzle. Now, again, the story of this dungeon, the story of this map is that the trolls had possession of the wool and were keeping it safe in their fleecy boxes, and it was giving them magical protection. And the heroes, the pumpkins, came through and stole the wool, so they put all these torches here, right? So your job in this particular dungeon is to actually reset the traps and put them back in a state where you can actually, try to catch the heroes. So what you actually need to do here is you have to break the torches instead of placing the torches to disable the spawner. You actually have to break the torches, and then you're supposed to, using a shield, which there were some shields at the other place and there's some shields here. I'm not in survival mode, so this may be, he may not actually react to me the way that he should. Come on. You're supposed to push the skeleton, or we'll just, tell you what, we'll get another one to spawn here. You're supposed to push the skeleton into... Come here, you. No, don't go over there. So when I first built this dungeon, it was before the patch where skeletons got so crazy. And so you could actually push 4 of them into 4 little nooks around there. There we go. So you put one of them in here, and his job is to quote-unquote guard this dungeon so that when any heroes come through here, he will shoot them. And then what you need to do is throw items, 3 items on these 3 pressure plates. And then it will open up the door over here. And again, when I built this, it was a lot easier to do it. The skeletons weren't strafing and all that stuff. But the patch actually really screwed it up. Now this puzzle here is a balance puzzle. You've got these dispensers on the walls, and you're supposed to very slowly move items from one dispenser to another so that they always keep about the same amount of weight, but they end up with all 126 arrows moved over to this dispenser, 45 snowballs moved over to this dispenser, and 3 lava buckets moved over here. So the first thing you have to do is go in and pull out all the mushrooms. And if the weight, the number of items in the dispenser, gets too low, then this will shift to the left. If it gets too high, it will shift to the right. So you have to... So for example, if I were to take one of these lava buckets out, it's going to make the weight in that dispenser go too low. And it's actually going to drop a TNT from here, which is going to startle you, but it can also blow these signs off, and you lose your clue as to how to solve the puzzle. Also notice on the floor there's that hawk diagram again from the Zelda dungeon. So this puzzle may actually be a little bit too hard with the limited instructions that I gave, but I'm quite proud of it actually. I'm actually quite proud of it. Now, off the top of my head, I do not remember the sequence that you're supposed to do this in. But I just took snowballs out of there. I should have taken arrows out of there. And I believe I can put arrows here. Okay, good. So far, so good. And I believe I can take... Whoop! I took out too much. So now the signs are going to blow up. And now it's going to be a lot harder because I don't have the signs to remind me of what goes where. Now that I've got one of those in there, I believe I can take all the rest of the arrows. And I can put the arrows in here and then safely take that. And then I can safely put this here. And I can safely take that and then put snowballs and then take that. And then finish the arrows. And then finish the buckets. And I think that was how you do it. But again, well, let's see if I did it correctly. If I did it correctly, the door opens. If I didn't do it correctly, if there were not enough in here, like let's say I was one short. Oh, shoot. I took out too many. It will not open. Oh, it did open. Maybe I have to be more than one short for it to open or not open. Yeah. So you have to be within the range. I guess you don't have to have exactly the right number. But all three have to be balanced within a certain range for this door to open. And once you're through, you can hold it open there. Come through here. This prevents you from going back out once you've returned the wool. And then this is Kissy Face. She's a troll with a different sort of look. Instead of a nose, she's got some big smoochum lips. And you're supposed to put the gray wool in here, which I will go ahead and cheat. I'm not putting the actual wool in. And then you get the kissing talisman. And I should still have the sledding talisman from before. And then this is the only way out. And again, I mentioned this when I came into the dungeon. This is the little secret guy. And there's the entrance over there. And here's the secret guy telling you the path back to the real world. And this door here, just in case you got lost in the woods, so you wouldn't have come through there. Hopefully you can follow this path back. It's a little bit hard to see, but once you see it, once you know it's there, I think it's fairly easy to follow. But it's kind of subtle. We'll see. I have to watch some LPs if anyone plays this map, see if they get lost or stuck. Go across here. Now you're following these blocks. I think the path should be fairly obvious. And now we're back to the city. Instead of going back in this entrance over here, we're going to go in the back entrance. So we're actually going to be able to now see what's going on with the city. And, by the way, timing it just enough so that you come in here, you get this book, and then there's an explosion, and you look over here and you see these guys that look like they just got knocked down by the explosion over there. Oh, shoot. I wasn't anticipating this, though. I don't know. I actually don't. Oh, that's... Oh, well. Oh, wow. You can get to some good stuff. That's not good. I didn't notice that in my playthrough. Oh, well. So here's that vanilla federated sign that I mentioned was blown off. Okay, I broke that off myself. Let's see. Alright, well, if you did this correctly, you came in from this door here, and then he tells you to go over to the buildings. So, you might have gone across here, but hopefully you would see this Jagazmom hero in front of her house. Fight her, take her sword, and then hopefully you didn't explore too much. Although if you do, you don't lose anything. This is another trolling example, which is breaking tree trunks and leaving the tops floating in the air. That's a classic troll move in Minecraft. And you're supposed to come over here to these buildings. You see these guys with the battering ram trying to get Q-Magnet's door open. Obviously you won't be able to get in unless you break blocks, which you're not supposed to. But this is where you go into the MeTube tower, and you make your way up through the tower. I think the only thing I'm going to point out in MeTube tower is these guys here with these black things held up to their face, which are supposed to be cameras, and they're filming. They're filming the invasion in progress. And then I'm kind of proud of this guy here. He looks to me like Mike Wazowski from Monsters, Inc. And this is supposed to be Sully from Monsters, Inc. And they're here in the map because when I was first, one of the designs was not that everything was a troll, but there were all different types of monsters. And in fact, I wrote up a whole design for a Monsters, Inc. style map that I was contemplating using for this Vanilla 3. Actually, I'll show you one more thing in here that I just remembered. one of the early designs of this map has been blocked off, and it was that you were actually supposed to fight. You were actually supposed to fight these guys by putting items into chests. And Jig, what did you? Okay, so watermelon. So in this example here, if you put watermelon in the chest, the mob would actually be killed, and what would be left behind is the ghost of the hero. So he had red wool and a pumpkin head, and now he's a see-through ghost. And so that actually, and then you saw something got shot out here. I'm not exactly sure what it was. But your reward for killing that guy. So this was a prototype, and one of the things was that Q Magnets buildings and MeTube Inc. were supposed to be like rival invention companies, and they were like, you know, corporate espionage, stealing ideas from each other. That ended up not making it into the final map because, again, I was cutting corners. And this guy here, Yondu, if you are aware of the Guardians of the Galaxy, you should get that reference to Yondu. While I was watching Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I thought, ooh, I wonder if red glass panes would look like a fin on a troll. So instead of all the trolls having their like weird hat things or carpet, why don't I make some trolls with like fins on their head? And Yondu was created, and notice he has that arrow thing, and there's a bunch of whistling references. That thing is actually called a Yaka arrow, but here, of course, I have sort of played with that idea and made the Yaka wings. So you have to swoop down to here, and then you tweak this guy's nose. Hopefully people know how to use Elytra by now. I give a little bit of... Now, this is probably one of the riskier parts of this design, is this 6 red up here. Because now that there's snow up there, it may not be seen as easily. But there's the 6, and each of these rooms is named for one of the branches of Q Magnet's diversity map. And there's Q Magnet himself, and he has a map called Complex, so there's a reference in here. This is a weightlifting bench, kind of like that. It's actually quite a pain to get some things in survival floating the way that they are. You have to use pistons to push things around and hold their current position. Okay, so that was the 6. Here's Q. Whoops. Here's Q Magnet, who kind of explains what's going on in this building. So there's his 2, 4. So we have 2, 4, 6. Okay, nothing in the library. Okay, 3. So we've got 2, 3, 4, and 6 so far. And we'll go over this way to the puzzle branch. Again, here's all the little redstone experiments that... Remember I mentioned that this was supposed to sort of be like 2 rival experiment companies stealing experiments from each other. There's the 5. So now we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 1. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1 is this blue color. 5 is the yellow. So what could that be for? Well, down here we have one of the coolest combo locks. Actually, this is the coolest combo lock I've ever made in survival. I did get the idea off of a video, but I did have to modify it. But this was 1, this was 5, and you may remember the other numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thank goodness that worked. This button here will close and open it again if you wanted to for some strange reason. And there's Yondu, and you can pull your wool out of your keep inventory simulator. And let's put it in here. Thank goodness that worked. And you get the whistling talisman. Again, the whistling arrow from Yondu. And he tells you to find the fishy shaman. And here's again, I blocked off access to Q-Magnet's survival stash. A lot of time I spent just taking so everybody had, in everybody's base, they had their own survival stash, and just taking all those goods back and forth from like zone to zone as I was finishing the builds took a heck of a lot of time. But since I had all that stuff readily available, I didn't have to go and mine and farm it all, and that gave me a huge benefit in finishing this map a lot quicker than I would have if I had to farm it all myself. So here's the shaman that you're supposed to find. You throw the token in, and you can access the nether. This is really just thrown in here because I wanted to put it in somewhere. This is an original minecart from the survival map, which we used to get over here to the Mesa area. Mesa was initially founded by Granny Gamer 1 as like a place where we could dig up the clay, which is now terracotta. But she didn't build part of the map there. I actually ended up building all the map part. And this is like visually one of my favorite builds, probably my favorite build in this map. The concept is that there's these oil rigs here and cranes out in the water where the trolls were like stealing the natural resources, and the heroes came through and damaged them. And you can even see an oil slick here in the water. And the heroes used the crane to fish up this giant sea monster, which, yes, does look a bit like a Gyarados. And the sea monster is in the process of being chopped apart for food by the trolls. So the heroes, the sea monster was guarding the wool. The heroes fished it up with the crane, took the wool, and took off. And then when the trolls came back through the story, the sea monster was dead. So now they're trying to cut it apart so they can, use it for food before it decays. But it is a real tragedy that this sea monster was killed. And the idea here is that you have to parkour up across the sea monster down to here. Then you have to parkour inside the sea monster, come out up here on top of the sea monster, across, up the crane, down the crane to the fleecy box. It's not very hard, but it could be tricky if you're having trouble trying to find the path. But I just really love the way that this build looks. And also, speaking of tricky, if you stand anywhere near this pool, there's a skeleton spawner down here, which will of course spit out skeletons. It'll make them rise up and shoot you while you're standing around here, reading the various books, talking to the NPCs, or getting this guy's laundry. So simple design of an area, or actually it's kind of a complex design of the area to be frank, but small, compact area, all done in survival. Let's grab a brown wool here. Let's stick in. And this time we get the fishing talisman. Alright, then we will take the fishing talisman. Unfortunately, you have to backtrack on your own to here. I didn't have a nice, easy way out, but once again, I've blocked off access to the survival mine. Oh, I guess I didn't do a very good job of blocking that off, but hopefully nobody goes down there. So this was built back in 2015, and I wanted to have a sea serpent here, but I really didn't want to make a direct verbal reference to Gyarados. Obviously, this looks like a Gyarados sort of sea serpent after the fact, and during building it became more and more Gyarados-like, which is fine. But when I came back to finish off this area in 2017, and I started connecting this area to other areas, at the time I was actually playing Magikarp Jump on my iPhone. And since this is essentially the parkour challenge in the map, I decided to make this particular troll tribe called Magipark, which is Magikarp, but very, very thinly veiled. And we actually, off this way and way back over this way, had designated places where you could mine the clay, but I didn't want any clay mined from anything you could visually see on these islands. So like I didn't want this natural face defaced or this over here. So we actually would grab our clay from back behind what's visible here. And the mesa does go on quite a far way. It's pretty well ripped apart. Whoops. Creative mode sends you back through. So again, as I said, this is going to be a long video. I think this is the fishing talisman. Yes. And that opens up this nether path, or they don't call it the heliotrope. I mean, the trolls don't call it the nether, they call it the heliotrope. And hopefully players will get some interesting encounters here with either blazes or pigmen or ghasts. But it's not intended that you fight in this map. This map is really focused on the story itself. But there could be some random fighting along the way. You exit the heliotrope and you get to Jitterbob's amazingly cool Diver City area. And as a demo of how you're supposed to do this, you've got these plungers that you have to stand exactly in the right spot or it won't work. Too far away and you go nowhere. Too close and you go nowhere. Nope. I imagine some people are going to get frustrated by this, but keep trying. You'll eventually get it. And then same thing here. It's supposed to launch you in. Now, there is an NPC there. Oh, look at that. Almost on my first try. And he says if you just can't get it, find a different way in. Which all you have to do is swim over to here. And you can go up here. And the idea here is just some simple parkour through these pipes. You don't even need to do sprint jumps, I think. And then you go down. And there are some underwater boots and stuff that can help you make it through here. Again, the idea is not to make you drown, but to actually let you get through the map and see everything. So I actually probably made it a little bit too easy. And then here's Jig himself. Fight him, take a sword. And let's go this way. So hopefully if you haven't played the map, you're getting an idea of the story. You're getting an idea of the cool builds, the amazing mechanics for a survival map. and this is sufficiently wetting your whistle and not being seen as a spoiler, but I imagine you wouldn't have. Oh, did I go back? I think I might have. No, I didn't. Oh, yeah, I did. I got turned around. Oh, that's embarrassing. Oh, that's embarrassing. I've actually done that a couple times in survival, and in fact, the first time I came over here after I took this off the server, whenever Jig had already finished it, I got lost, and I found all of his stuff in one of these pipes where he must have died and dropped all of his stuff and never went to claim it. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going the right way. Oh, there's something over there. Oh, maybe we'll find out what that is later. Let's see. Now, this is where it starts getting cool because he's got these pipes arranged in such a way that they go through, up and down, and through the level that you're actually going to be playing in a minute. Show you what I mean by that here. So as you're coming up through here, you can see the interior of this temple, and in fact, you can see it, and you kind of pass through it, and then you go up and over, and then back down. And if you go too far, this guy tells you to go back up, and you come out here. So I love paths that take you like in a pretzel twisting path. You know, this is where you came through here, up and down and back through the same area multiple times. Now these guys are actually named, but it's very hard to see them because of the glass. I wish you could actually see name tagged creatures through glass. I'm gonna go ahead and break this open so you can see. His name is Multiplex, inside joke reference, and this is Tibia. Oh, I hope that water doesn't ruin anything. Okay, so this area is awesome. I'm not going to show the whole thing, but I will describe generally how you go through it. These doors are locked, and these doors are locked. Can't get in. What you have to do is you give this guy your wool for safekeeping. He's the foreman, apparently. And he takes a cyan wool. Whoops. And the cyan wool opens up the first door. This one should be closed. Yes. So you'll have a little bit of potential to be fighting... oh no, that's Tibia. But these guys can come up through here while you're in here and shoot at you. You have to kind of deal with them. So what he's got here, and I don't know, I'm going to break a hole here if you can see this clearly, but we actually created the Elder Guardian out of glass here, as if it's a dried out dead husk of an Elder Guardian. And the idea is that you're going to get its eggs by pressing this button. And so in goes the harvesting cart, out comes one of the eggs. This egg is called a reed. In it goes, it harvests an egg and comes back out. And it does this 5 different times, and you get 5 different balls. And I believe, actually I need to get all 5 balls first. So let's get all 5. And while that's going there, I'll get JD. And we'll get Cox. I think these are named after the people from Scrubs. Not actually sure about that. I don't watch that show. And Kelso. That's why I think they're named from Scrubs. I recognize that name. Now that I have all 5, I believe this other door over here should have opened. And by the way, That is the squid from Mario Brothers, and he's kind of got his tentacles going all around in here. I think he's pretty cool looking. And what you have to do here is you have to first put all the eggs in 3, 4, 5, and then that should open up the door. So you see what it's doing is it's training you to put the eggs and to pick up the eggs. And Jig's very good at having you do things over and over that train you. Now what you do here is you have to fertilize the eggs. So we're going to stick them in here. 5. And in order to fertilize them, you have to... I believe you hit it twice. So first you have to drop an egg out. Whoops. And it should drop onto that. And then you have to hit that. And if you got the timing right, then that should knock the egg up and then knock it down. And I think I just pressed this incorrectly. 3. Is that the right timing? Let's see. Nope. Still not the right timing. So basically you have to mess around with these repeaters until you get the timing correct. So we drop an egg. There it goes. It falls onto there. Then you shoot it up. Oh, it's firing too quickly now. Once you get the timing correct, this will jump the egg up. It'll drop. This will jump the egg up. It'll come across. Then you hit this second pressure plate, and then the eggs fall onto this here. And when you get all 5 eggs onto the pressure plate, actually I don't have all 5, do I? I only have 3. Okay, so let's make sure I have all 5. I'm going to shortcut this though for the video's sake, because you've either already cheated past this or solved it yourself. So let's do that and that. Put both eggs out at once. Shoot them up. Oh, I forgot. I didn't have the timing correct. Alright, so I've got all 5 eggs. And once you put all 5 eggs in, and it actually does need 5 unique items to trigger this pressure plate. Oops. You see the lights lit up. That meant that all 5 were there. Pick them back up again. And now the second stage on the other side should be open. I think this is a... oh! A 6-part puzzle. So I've just done the 5th part, I think, and now this is open. Now what you have to do is you put the eggs in here. 2, 3, 4, 5. And you shoot them. And they go down this pipe. And then you have to like flick these different levers to make the water go in different places. And you have to get them through a series of pipes until all the eggs get into this minecart over here. Once they're in the minecart, it will drop them over into here. Once you get all the eggs over into here, then this will fall. There we go. And all of your eggs will be hatched and grown, and you will have done a good job. And that's when you will get an eyeball. Oh, I hate that recipe book so much for adventure maps. Okay, you've got the eyeball. You're almost done with this dungeon. You put the eyeball in there, and remember what you learned outside, how to jump off of the slime. where it comes into play. There you go. And now you get the spawning talisman. And the idea is that this dude that you gave the wool to, he already put it back in here for you, but he made you go through this all to get their eggs to hatch. And to escape here, you swim up this. Now, this is not part of Jig's plan. I added this myself. And you take a boat, and you boat over to here. Now, like I said before, this wasn't part of the original plan, but I really wanted to include this in the map. So this is the guardian spawning area. There's actually not really anything to do here. If you like, you can come down here and you can see Princess Puffer, my baby. And this is the Guardian Farm. And as you can see, Guardian stuff is piling up. And if you AFK up there at the top, you can get a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff very quickly. Here's Felina's sword. And if you put in the spawning talisman, you will cause a ruckus. This may crash some people's game, I apologize. What I was really hoping would happen is that the water would actually come rushing in and reflood this whole area, but Minecraft water mechanics don't quite work that way. And it's probably better that they don't, because that would probably put out this portal. But technically you can skip that and just go through the portal. And we have the purple wool, and again you've got your ender chest here, so you can always access it. This time when you put the purple wool in, you get the traveling talisman, because you're traveling through the heliotrope, through the nether. And these guys are marching some of those pumpkin slaves from the city to something called the factory. What could pumpkins be used for in a factory? And we have the battlefield. So you learn about the Hush. These are like rangers. You come over here. Now, hopefully this didn't change with 1.12 actually, now that I think about it. Okay, good. It harmlessly blows up and it shouldn't do anything, although... Did it blow off his sword? No, good. His sword is there. Okay, so these are the seven troll armies that you've met along the way, and their men are here about to assault the heroes, led by Dragnos, and they are mounted on horses. This horse had its legs blown off. And you can't get into the factory past all these guards. And here's Wizard Keen, by the way. So instead, what you have to do is follow the path here and use your stealthy skills to go around the battle and find this guy here and sneak up the side of the mountain, following the podzol. Oh, there's a horse there. That's funny. And sneak behind these guys, and you can go get Adam's sword there if you wanted. And you sneak up here and notice he's dripping wet because he found a way in back here. And CFG had a very good idea for this factory to have like a power source back here, which is this water wheel, and then various different areas and floors of the factory that you'd have to do individual puzzles in. Again, I took a shortcut to get it done, but this factory itself, the interior just looks amazing. And I love what he did with the light sources. In fact, wouldn't this make a really cool trailer video? Cool. So this factory was originally designed to be a pumpkin pie factory, and it was going to have mine carts with armor stands in them and pumpkin heads on the mine carts moving around under slabs, so you would just see the tops of the pumpkins sticking out and they would look like conveyor belts. So here's what I had to end up doing at the end, which is to put a villager in a minecart with a pumpkin head, because in Minecraft 1.12 you can't actually put a armor stand in a minecart anymore, even though the Decoshroom area was built on that design back in like 1.8 or 1.9. For some reason, they decided to change the way that entity collisions worked. And I was originally going to have this factory was full of conveyor belts that you would turn on, and you would like guide the pumpkins down conveyor belts from different factory floors all the way to the bottom by solving puzzles. And there would be a bunch of conveyor belts with pumpkins going back and forth in here. Well, unfortunately, since I couldn't get the visual effect any longer that I wanted, and I don't want to use a lot of villagers in this map, this is the only villager in the map itself now. And I changed the design here to be a lot more simple. And the other thing about the design was that this was supposed to be a pumpkin factory that was taken over by the heroes and turned into an iron golem factory. And so behind this entrance right up here, and or this entrance down here, my original design was to have iron golems being made with pistons, and then the door would open and it would send an iron golem out. And those were supposed to be like reinforcements for the pumpkin heroes. And you were actually going to find out inside this factory that the pumpkin heroes, the ones with the glowing heads, were actually robots and automatons and not actually organic beings. But I ended up scrapping a lot of that because it just didn't come out as easily as I wanted. Okay. So let's go down. I'm not going to read all the books. So the first thing that you come to is blocked off. It's the cane. Okay, cane. But here's something I can go in. The hen house. Now, you actually can't walk anywhere. There's actually a hidden fence maze here, which prevents you from being able to walk straight across the room. So you actually have to find your way through this maze. And it's just a short maze, but it's kind of a cool thing. And you have to put the traveling token in here, I believe. Yes, that is what you have to do. You can take the eggs, you don't have to. I was originally going to make you use the eggs and the sugar cane and pumpkins to make pumpkin pies out of the heroes, but it doesn't actually, you don't actually have to do that. You can to eat, but then you come back up here and now you flick a lever there, and that should open the door to the next area, which is past here. Oh, and by the way, that lever also turns all the lights on and stops the thing. So if you fought your way down to here, mobs shouldn't be spawning as much because the darkness is much less. Oh, I went all the way down to the factory floor. Factory's not open yet. I missed the doorway. Where was the doorway? Oh, here it is. Duh. Cold Fusion Storage, named after Cold Fusion Gaming. this is where he is for Storm Haze. That's his Vanilla 2 map, I believe. Or is it Vanilla 3? Vanilla 2. Pull the last lever, and hopefully that opened up the vault, or I should say the factory floor. So now, here you are. This was originally supposed to be Dr. Orange as like the final NPC. I love the way this factory bisected the ravine here, so I kept that, and I actually opened this up. And once you put the red wool in, oops. Fireworks, the baking talisman, and your final mission, which is right over here. Now, this design here, I think of this where you make choices and go through a sequence of iron doors. I think about this as, and here's a quick look at how many different rooms there are, by the way. I think of this as Jay Gazmom's design for her Choose Your Own Adventure Vanilla 2 map. And when I first designed this map, the idea was that there would be 4 doors and you could have 4 choices, and they would each lead to one end. So there would just be 4 rooms after this final combat. You'd either attack the general, attack the leader, who didn't even have a name back then, or you'd attack the hero, or you would attack. There was actually a 4th choice, but anyway, and it would either lead you to the worst ending, the best ending, the okay ending, or a not so good ending. The actual 4 real endpoint endings that you can get to in this map are actually still in here, but there's a much longer path of choices to get to those endings now. And I would have actually been done with this map like a week and a half to 2 weeks earlier than I am, but at the last minute I decided I was going to do some prototyping and make a much more complicated ending point. And I actually spent about 8 to 16 hours working out 2 fairly complex redstone ways to do this. And what I was going to do was, I'm going to go into game mode 3 again, was to present you with a series of levers that you could put up or down if you're going to help the pumpkin leader or kill him, if you're going to help Yondu or kill him, if you're going to help General Slaughter kill him, and then the button to open the door. And if all of them were in the up position, so from a binary perspective, that would be like a 0, 0, 0, and then you press the door, that's like a do nothing. And if all of them were down, 1, 1, 1, and then you press the button, that would be like you attack all 3. If you had some combination of that, I have a bunch of different circuits to figure out the binary to decimal translation, although I wasn't doing a straight binary to decimal translation. So if you were to, let's just say, attack General Slarg, and we put that on, and let's say you weren't going to attack Yondu at all, but you were also going to attack Gordon Freeman. So this is like a 1, 0, 1. So instead of that just coming out with one particular ending, I built this system of solutions, and so that would actually unlock ending 1. It would not unlock 2. It would unlock 1, 3, 4, and 12. And if you were to, let's say you were to attack Yondu and the hero and then press the button, that would be 2, 4, 6, and 9. And what are these numbers? So this was a dynamic set of signs that would be opened up, and it would tell you the sequence of story events that would occur based on the choices that you made. And so I had to carefully sequence these signs so that, and then these were going to be vertical walls of the concrete powder that would then either fall or stay in place based on the pistons. And so, for example, in this particular ending, the first sign that you would see would say, from behind you, or from behind, you ram your blade into Yondu's skull, killing him. So you killed Yondu, and then the hero, oh, then you leap at the hero and end his life with one swift blow. And then Slarg's eagle laugh is the last thing you hear as his blade cuts you down. So he kills you from behind. And then there was a book here that explains more about the after ending. So I had 4 books in this version. And this redstone was getting very complicated, and I didn't quite like the way that this was turning out. So I thought of a simpler way to do this, in which I actually have the same sort of thing, 3 levers. And instead of using a whole bunch of complex and an OR and all these different gates, I made a simpler version where each of your decisions would raise or lower certain of these concrete blocks. And then when you press the door button, all of these lanes would get powered up at once. And then the same result would happen, is that dynamically you would get certain books available to you. And I actually spent not as much time building this, but I spent a whole lot of time writing all these books. So I'm going to read a couple. So in the first design, it was sort of complex, but sprawling redstone. This is a much more simple design, but more complex story. And so you can see this, instead of a single sign, this particular thing had 4 pages. You turn to look at Yondu, locked in combat with the pumpkin leader. Behind you, you can feel General Slarg's greed like hot breath on the back of your neck. Memories of your mission flash through your mind, and you realize that your sword is in your hand. With a mighty yell, you spin on Slarg and slash him shoulder to groin. Slarg slumps against the wall with one last sneer frozen on his face. Yondu whips his head towards Slarg in disbelief, dropping his guard for only a fraction of a second, but it is enough for the pumpkin leader. His blade slides over Yondu's crossguard and up his forearm. The tip pierces Yondu's side, and 3 inches of steel plunge through soft tissue, mortally wounding the troll leader. And so on and so forth. All these books are just full of that kind of long, drawn-out gibberish. And what I realized is that you've just gone through this whole map. It's very visual. There's all kind of little puzzles and things for you to do. And essentially the ending that I made is pull 3 levers, and you're rewarded with a hallway full of signs to read, or a hallway full of complicated books to read. And I realized after I had prototyped all this stuff and gone through the process that, you know what? That's kind of a pretty boring ending, is a hallway full of things to read. It'll be much better if you can experience it in a choose-your-own-adventure kind of way, which is really what I was going after. But I was trying to take this smaller footprint of build with some complicated logic, and if you only went through the map once, and this wasn't resettable, by the way, because I'm using concrete powder, if you only went through the map once, you would never appreciate that this ending story was actually dynamically generated. So the only person really benefiting from this design was my own mental exercise. So hopefully you agree that this particular ending, where you do make choices and you can experience characters falling as you continue to make choices and moving around, and the story told through much fewer signs to actually read, actually turns out to be more dynamic and a better experience in the long run. But I always think it's just really amazing to take a look, especially when you have underground levels like this. Take a look at the amount of build that's in here from this sort of angle. I always think it's just a really cool way to look at your Minecraft maps. That is the culmination of 7 years of playing Minecraft, 2 years of multiplayer server, and quite a bit of work building an entire adventure in survival. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you made it this far, please consider leaving me a comment. So there's just so much went into this world. I mean, what I described wasn't even nearly 10% of all the experiences. There are quite a few videos up on my channel in the Vanilla 3 playlist where you can see us having fun, and you can see the map starting to take shape from the first day of Survival Wilderness all the way till the point where I finished it off solo. And that's it. So thank you so much for playing and watching and supporting, and I guess I'll see you next time.